So today is the weekend of the playoffs for the Overwatch League, and there have been major meta shakeups over the last couple of weeks, namely nerfing double barrier. And so this week, we're going to be taking a look at what might be played and hypothesize a little bit about what the meta is going to look like for the next couple weeks during the playoffs. We're going to be taking a look at Onz's perspective here, and the main reason we're looking at Onz is because Sigma has had a serious nerf to his shield, and there's no better way to see how strong Sigma's shield actually was than actually watching it from the hit scans perspective. And you'll see Onz, while I talk here, we'll watch Onz do his playthrough, and you'll see that he really just doesn't get much done at all on this map. No knock on Onz. He's obviously a great player, one of the best hit scan in the Overwatch League. It's just to demonstrate how strong Sigma is. So, what exactly were the nerfs? If you didn't see them, there were actually a ton that came out and are now live. Brig lost 50 HP, taking her to 200 HP in armor total, and 150 base HP, 50 armor. She gets a roughly 50% increase in self-heal. She was at 10.5 HP per second, and she moved up to 15 HP per second, but she lost 25% team heal. So less team support, more individual support. For Orisa, she lost 50 armor, and the key nerf for her was that her halt radius was reduced by half, which makes the pull nearly useless, is what we've been seeing on ladder. The projectile is much faster, but halt can't pull as far, and it can't reach enemies as far away. So her utility is basically just in being an anchor tank now, and standing in a spot and being very hard to remove from that spot. But a lot of her utility came from, all of her utility really, came from halt and comboing that with abilities. For Sigma, he lost 200 HP on his barrier, which is a huge cut, and also the barrier regens 33% slower. Kinetic grasp cooldown additionally was increased by 20%. So what you're going to see in this is that Sigma is an extremely high sustain hero. All of his abilities can be used to take, he's one of the best duelists in the game, and all of his abilities can be used to duel and shut off an off angle. And that's what he's been doing to Onz here, is he's playing more with the team. You sometimes see a Sigma play up where Onz is looking right now, actually, on first point attack, and they'll just hold that off angle, and they'll take a 1v1 all day, they'll take a 2v1, and they'll have to rotate their cooldowns twice, and then they can leave and still survive. But he gets a ton of value from that barrier, kinetic grasp, and his accretion. Accretion hasn't been touched, but a lot of his sustain in the barrier and kinetic grasp has been removed. So we'll go into the effects of that a little bit later. Last tank change was Roadhog, and if you guys have been playing comp in late August, early September, Roadhog is everywhere in comp. Used to be a throw pick, now you're getting Ball Hog, Zarya Hog every single game. I think he has the highest pick rate among tanks at the moment. I just looked up the stats a little while ago. I know that's true. So Roadhog was changed. Why are people playing Roadhog? Because he had 6 shots before in his clip. That was reduced to 5, but each shot, each pellet deals 1 more damage. So 6 to 7 with 25 shots per pellet. He's got that scrap gun. It shoots 25 pellets per shot. So each shot is worth an additional, I've got it here somewhere, 25 damage per shot. It was 150 if every pellet hit on a body shot. Now it's 175. So what does that mean for Roadhog is his total damage is down 25 damage, all body shots, again, from 900 to 875. Plus, it shoots slower. So his total damage output is lower, meaning like things like his shield break are a lot lower. But his hook combo is significantly more consistent and can one-shot heroes significantly more consistently. So sure, he's a lot of fun to play in ladder right now, and you're going to have him in every game that you play. Then there are a couple other little changes. Pharah can no longer permafly. Zen has a slight increase in his damage, the fire rate and the charge rate. And then the Sim TP cooldown was decreased. I don't think any of those are big changes. Really the main changes are the first four that I mentioned. So let's talk meta. What does this actually do for meta? And I'll bring this back to the beginning here, the Atlanta Rain attack. We can watch from Hawk's perspective. So what does this do for the meta then? Well, the first thing that we can see is that Sig Orisa double barrier meta is likely over. And the reason that it's likely over is that key parts of each kit have been removed. The halt was Orisa's key utility. Her main job was to hold a position, but she also enabled her team to get picks by using that halt ability. It made every ultimate more valuable, and it comboed with Sig's accretion to get picks. That's how she got picks. Other than that, now she's just kind of like a shield bot, stand in place, put pressure in an area. Sure. And there's some use there to her standing in a place like she is right now on the corner of the point and just dishing out damage. But you see without halt, like we just saw in that window, she doesn't do enough. Then with Sigma, he can no longer be the off-angle duelist that he was. He can't do what he's doing to Ons right now, where he can literally just take the best player, or the most damaging player, the highest impact player, you could say, the one that's going to get kills. Sigma could just remove that character from the game with his barrier. And you see his barrier just broke after they capped point. That's going to change. You can now, and see it's already, almost back to full health when he deployed it again there. That's going to change. All that sustain goes away, and that barrier breaks, halfway through the fight, or if you're focusing it as you're approaching the point. He doesn't have that same kind of impact, or he can just remove a character or an angle from the game. So double barrier, I believe with these buffs, is gone. And I think that's generally the consensus as well, as you're seeing in scrims, and you're seeing people in discussion. So what does that leave for the meta that's going to take its place? Well, we're going to see, and we're going to see it's all going to depend on how scrims are playing out, and we'll probably see some development through the playoffs as each team kind of plays what they think is going to be meta, and then adapts to that, and then adapts to the adaptation, right? But one thing I do want to get out of the way early is that I do not believe that Roadhog is going to be meta in Overwatch League, and a lot of the kind of like minor teams are scrimming Zarya Roadhog, and I just do not think that's a good comp. It's a great ladder comp, but it's not a great comp. And the reason for that is because Roadhog cannot take space without feeding ult charge. He has no way to, his main way of taking space is to threaten it, to walk into it and say, you can't exist here without challenging me. taking damage from me and threatening being hooked. But when he does that, it's very easy to shoot him and feed ult charge off of him. So you can actually give up that space and just charge ults off of a Roadhog. And as long as you don't die to hook, which more organized teams will not, be out of position and lose to hooks regularly, right? Then he's not getting the value that he needs to get, and you're trading his own ult charge for Whole Hog, one of the worst ults in the game, for any other ult in the game, which is of equal or greater value. So it's just not a trade that you want to do. Double off tank, I don't think it's going to be a meta. Barrier is too strong. And you contrast that even with current Orisa. She can also threaten a space. She can't threaten it in the same way that Roadhog can. She doesn't have one-shot potential, but she can walk into a space and say, you can't stand here without taking immense damage, but I'm not just going to give away ult charge for free, because she puts down her barrier, right? And she can still do that. So Roadhog can play in a pick comp and try and get pickoffs, but he can't take space, and I think that's ultimately going to be why double off tank is not going to be relevant in Overwatch League, because they can't take space. Not without trading a bad ult for any other ult. So I don't think, so we'll move to Brig too. I don't think the Brig nerfs knock her out of the meta. She loses 25% of her team heal, but she was more of a utility support anyway. She was often playing bodyguard for Ana, and I think she still plays that role very well, and perhaps even better because of her increased self-heal. Obviously, she's not healing the Ana that she's playing with as well, but she... We'll roll it back and look at Gator's view. Perfect. She's not playing her... Actually, we'll look at Striker's view, sorry. Because Striker also doesn't get much done other than, I think, 1, maybe 2 EMPs. But he's just, like, locked out of this fight. So, so with Brig, you often saw her... I mean, we've seen her in lots of different looks. I think the look that is going to be very powerful in the upcoming meta is going to be this 3-3 offensive trio, defensive trio team that the Shock has been running. I did an analysis of that in Temple of Anubis a couple weeks back, and I think that's positioned very, very well with the upcoming meta. And so what that comp looks like is your Ana and Brig staying together in like a tight doorway or someplace where Brig can basically block the door and no one can get at the Ana. Zarya also is holding a little further away or like holding an off angle to zone flanking DPS out of the fight and to charge up her ult and win if the offensive trio can't generate an advantage. She just charges grab and wins. So I think that style of playing Brig just hasn't been affected that much because Ana was doing most of the healing and Brig's primary job was just keep people off of Ana. And I don't think anything with that has changed. So I think she'll just be fine. So we touched a little bit on the comps that I expect to actually come up. Double barrier out. Roadhog Zarya, I don't think it's a thing. But what I do expect to see is a lot of that 3-3, and it's going to be... I expect to see, I should broaden that, I expect to see lots of variants of dive, and I think the most promising right now is 3-3, Zarya, Winston, Ana, Brig, and then whatever's relevant DPS on the map. Because really, it's just about being an offensive trio where your DPS are working with your Winston, and your Zarya is working with your supports. So that can be like, I think the Shock ran Widow, Tracer, and then the rest of that crew against Philly Fusion, and that was pretty successful. I think they ultimately lost that map on Busan that I'm thinking about. But it was against like a really weird, like special composition that Philly had dreamed up for that map. Anyway, I think that's a really strong combination, and we'll see lots of versions of Dive, like the Chengdu Hunters. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Chengdu Hunters. They're probably going to roll with Ball Zarya because Ameng is, a ball god. But we'll see how that plays out. I think that if teams do run, try to run double barrier, that a rush comp just wins now. Like a rush comp can just get in. Like, okay, so how did double barrier withstand a rush comp? Was stuffing kinetic grasp in their face, in like the Reaper's face. So let me back up. Sigma gets walled. What does he do? He throws out barrier, and then he kinetic grasps, and then he gets frozen, while the team shoots the ice wall that's isolated him, right? And then the team makes it in time to keep him alive. But now a rush comp can just break the shield. They can just break the shield or force kinetic grasp early, and then you go again, right? And your Sig's not going to survive. So I think that rush comp now we haven't seen much like Rhine, Lucio just run over the double barrier type comps in OWL for a long time. And I think that you'll see that come out in response to double barrier. We'll watch the attack here. The attack was pretty frustrating as well. We haven't seen much rush in OWL for a long time, and I think that rush is now viable to run over double barrier. Depending on the map, Dive can also just kind of pick apart double barrier, and I just don't think it's a good idea to run double barrier on a bigger map than one like King's Row, for example, where you can't just bunker up in one spot, where it falls to Sigma to hold an off angle. That doesn't work anymore. And Dive can just take space and corral a bunker comp into a small area, and then just dive at their leisure, like whenever the time is right, whenever your hit scan pops ahead, anything like that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Let's see. So I think, yeah, so I think that that's going to be basically it. So what I expect is Bunker loses to Rush. Rush loses to Dive. Dive does feel like king right now. And then lastly, like, is there a place for pick? Is there a place for the pick comp? The Zarya Hog. The only place that I can see that is maybe against a dive comp where a dive comp can't occupy space for long periods of time either. Like, the threat of a Roadhog can actually be enough impact against Dive, because Dive doesn't hold space, Dive temporarily takes space, right? It occupies space for a short period of time. So maybe you can get away with it there. It remains to be seen. But then, again, if a team goes on to the pick comp, then the enemy team just rotates to the rush comp. You can do rush or bunker, still beats pick. And you would pick, in that scenario, you would pick rush. Actually, it's probably going to be easier for me to show this than to explain it. So, actually, we'll illustrate this and then call it for this video. So, there's rush, bunker, dive. And then you've got like pick out here. So dive beats rush, beats bunker. And then maybe dive or bunker can outlast dive. This is all map dependent, but this is kind of just like general theory crafting, right? So where does pick slot in? Pick can maybe beat dive. Remains to be seen. We'll see how it plays out. And we'll see how owl scrims have determined whether it's good or not. But pick can maybe beat dive by threatening space if they're not running like if they're not running like a long range hit scan, right? Because like what can a Hog, Zarya, Ana, Mercy? I guess you can take the duel. You can take like Ashe Mercy versus Ashe, right? Okay, so anyway, so pick might be able to beat dive, but then you have the option of switching to rush or bunker, and you want to pick rush, not bunker, because if you pick bunker, then the pick team switches to rush, and you lose. So I think the meta in that case boils down to these two teams, right? Rush and dive, and you cut bunker out. And then like maybe you can play the okay, they're on dive, we do pick, and then we rotate to dive, right? So if you can find a way to make this work, basically if your Ashe is better than their Ashe, you can do pick, force them onto rush, swap to dive. Don't know. So we will find out. Wait, there's a way to get all of this. There we go. So we'll find out. The Overwatch League playoffs, I believe they start this weekend, and this weekend is the last weekend in August. Gosh, what's the date? Today's the 27th. So is our first match on the 28th rather? I said the 27th was today. Is the first match on August 28th? Somebody tell me. Anyway, that's the quick rundown, just quick thoughts about what we could see in the coming weeks, and it'll be really exciting to see it all shake out, because I'm sure that with these major changes, double barrier has been a very consistent and strong meta for a long time, and you see teams are trying to dismantle it, but the Shock is just better than the Rain, and they kind of got wrecked on this map. But anyway, this is going to be a big meta shakeup, and I'd love to see more rush comps. I miss seeing Ryan swinging away, and I love watching dive as well. Personally, I hope that y'all tune in and it's entertaining. We get some good matches. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later.